Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all my blessed beloveds out there in video land. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty, and I am Rusty. I am super excited about our guest today, and we're going to learn more about what makes Marcielly live, thrive, and ooey gooey on the inside. Very cool. I love what I do. It's great stuff. And I love that you get to join me. So Mari and I are bonding. She's absolutely adorable. She is Puerto Rican. Are you still in Puerto Rico?
No, I reside in Boston.
Oh, girl, I could see you next week. I'm heading up that way myself. Lord, shoot.
Wait, what part of Boston?
Actually, I'm headed to New Hampshire.
Oh, I lived in New Hampshire for about 6 years.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
I got
beautiful.
family, very quiet. I live in the city now, so.
Yeah, so
Definitely.
you must have like lots of a leave next to your bed with all the sirens and stuff like that.
Funny, to the left, I have the fire station, and to the right, I have the police station.
Oh my God, I hope you don't have dogs. Those dogs would go psycho. My pups would go
Neighbors do,
nuts.
but I'm actually so used to it. I can sleep through it. It's just necessary at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mari, tell us who you are, what you do, and what makes you you.
Well, I'm a domestic violence survivor. Over 15 years, I was in 2 abusive relationships. I am a mother of 4. I'm an author of my book, Who Is She?, which is a story about trauma, healing, and growth. And I'm a life coach, so I help women overcome trauma.
I love it. Good for you, sister.
Thank you
Good
so
for
much.
you. It takes some balls to get up and say, this is what happened, this is how I've dealt with it, and I have these 4 beautiful kids to, wrangle in at times and still heal within my own trauma. So
I had to, I was hurting my children. I was hurting my home between my trauma, being so aggressive, being so angry, being so mad, not only on myself, but I feel so guilty in many ways.
that's the
And
big killer, is the guilt. I
the
to this
guilt.
day, I still suffer from, I could have done it better, I could have done it differently, I could have, and I didn't, and the coulda, shoulda, woulda is what it is, but it does circle around at sensitive
But I
points.
learned that it wasn't my fault, right? I didn't choose to be into abusive relationships. A lot of people love to ask, well, why didn't you leave? As it, yeah, let me take my things and leave. Do you know the danger that it is when we choose to leave? We could lose
Trust
our
me, I
life.
know.
Yeah, we could lose our life. I mean, we already could lose our life being in a relationship. So when we do choose, let's go, let me leave. Okay, now what? A lot of women are in a city or in a place where there's no money. She has no vehicle, she has no family, and she's in a circle where that person kind of controls everything she do. She
Oh,
doesn't
they
have
wipe
to
they wipe you clean. They wipe you clean and make sure that
work.
you're in a position where you have no resources, and the resources you thought you had have a different version in their head because they've been secretly talking about you and you didn't even know about it.
Exactly. And back in the days, we didn't have social media like we do now. I didn't even have a phone. He wouldn't even allow me to have a phone. And the times that I did use his phone, he would sit right next to me to make sure that I didn't say anything. And he would time my calls. Okay, it's been 2 minutes, hang up.
Yeah, that's what mine used to do. Or he would play the you're a bad parent.
Yes.
I would be talking to somebody or trying to coach somebody, a serious, lengthy conversation, and he would go, "You need to hang up and hang out with your kids. You need to focus on your children." Like trying to put that seed of I'm a bad parent into the mix so that other people kind of question my intentions. And I mean, to this day, we've been divorced for 10 years and he's still doing that.
It's trying to manipulate you, trying to control. Because I remember in New Hampshire, because I was living in New Hampshire at this time with him, I couldn't even say hi to my neighbor. He thought I was sleeping with everybody. I had to look straight forward. If I look to the left and that person just seems to say hi out of being nice, oh, are you sleeping with that person too? Or if I had a female friend, oh, are you in a lesbian relationship? I'm like, oh my goodness, I couldn't even look to the left. I had to look forward. It was like I had to look down.
Mine, I used to travel overseas, and I worked for a company that was stationed overseas. So I would travel back and forth. And it was a really great job. I loved my job. However, every time I went, I would get phone calls from my ex accusing me of sleeping with people at the company. Oh, his mother says that I'm sleeping with people at the company. Just, just things to make it really hard to function. Or he would have the children call crying, "Daddy's being mean again, Mommy, please come home," and manipulate that way. Like, it was very covert. And unfortunately, New Hampshire does not have laws to protect women. That's one of the reasons why I think New Hampshire doesn't need to be a part of the USA.
They're so slow. I remember one time where I finally decided to call the police on him. They took forever, right? They took forever. At that time, I could have been gone.
Oh yeah, no, and they told the Rochester, New Hampshire Police Department told me point blank, my ex-husband can call me anything that he wants at any time that he wants, especially if it's in public, because that's public property and he has the right to his free speech.
That's insane. That is so abusive.
Oh, it got worse. I ended up in jail for 4 days because he manipulated the system so badly. And because they refuse to make laws to protect women and children, murder-suicide is huge up there. And the legislation, the senators, even the governor, they turn a blind eye. They just let it happen. And it's one of the things that I'd like to combat is getting these states to start protecting us instead of allowing us to be abused and dead.
I just feel like, for example, let's say they get a domestic call. They take it like we're just arguing. We're going to get back together. At that time, it doesn't matter. We're calling you for help. We need help. There has to be a way where they de-escalate the situation, because at some point they might escalate it. That's what it turns into a murder-suicide.
Exactly.
And during the pandemic in worldwide, there's been an increase almost 9% of abuse, right? Because now we're stuck with the abuser.
Oh, big time. And that abuser has more time on his hands or her hands, but frequently it's mostly a male thing, to really taunt and play with you because they're bored. They have nothing better to do but torture you.
Well, the rate between men and women, for example, between 1 and 4, women get abused, and men is 1 out of 9.
Yeah.
So it's totally different. Not that we're taking sides, but statistics, it's just more towards women.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was trying to say.
Yes.
Down here in Florida, the way I understand it, children are extremely protected, which is why we're here. My daughter is very protected. For the first time out of 3 states, Florida was the only one that gave me a permanent restraining order, which as well as I do, it's just a piece of paper, but with the miles in between, it's a little bit more comforting. But children have amazing rights down here. They really do a good job protecting. And I believe if it's a domestic encounter, they actually arrest both of you.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I just want to get more than a piece of paper.
I honestly think that there needs to be legislation overall, federal, whatever, that makes it mandatory for psychological evaluations, because if that would have happened in the beginning of my divorce, my daughter wouldn't have PTSD now from the abuse, but New Hampshire is horrible about those sorts of things. It's a beautiful state, but
it is. It is, but it's just the law. Just, for example, at Boston, on my second abusive relationship, he had a GPS. Even when the GPS, he would still climb to my second window porch, and not once the police came. Many times he said, "I'm gonna burn your house down. I'm gonna burn you guys down."
Yeah.
GPS and all, the police not once showed up. I was so afraid to even call the police, because I believe this man will really burn me and my children in my house. And not once the police came by. Like, they knew that he shouldn't be in front of my house, because allegedly he was being monitored. He was not.
No, that's so foolish. All right, sister. So let's talk about, you finally got out. It's a scary thing to get out. It's really hard. I cannot express enough how difficult it is to get out with 1 child. I can't imagine with 4, because they're torn, they're confused, they're angry, totally get it. My God, what did you have to do? Tie them all up and drag them out?
When I see my kids trying to hurt themselves, right? Because me, when I seen I was losing my family, I said, I got to take care of my mental health. Because in order for me to help my children to move forward from PTSD, from depression, from anxiety, I had to take care of myself first. I said, this is enough. I left alcohol behind because, I fell into alcohol for many, many years, in a way to kind of numb myself, the pain. But in between, my kids were hurting. I didn't know that one of my children was hurting themselves, was trying to commit suicide, was trying to cut the arms. And I said, when I read that shit, like, it's because of my mom. I said, no, I had to find the strength to look for help. So I was able to help them. It took me a while. I didn't want to accept certain things, but I had to. I had to heal. I had to get help. And that's when I kind of like took the bull by the horn and had the strength to kind of move forward. So, it took me a while, but it was so worth it. Being able to smile again, being able to sleep without fear, and just kind of like a fresh air in my heart, like in my soul was kind of different. Like I was always like my chest was so tight constantly and full of kind of hate, like hate is a strong word, but I hated myself and I hated people.
Well, it's hard to trust. I mean, that's what the second most intimate relationship you can have. The first being that with your parents. And now here it is, your life partner, at least in your head, that was the plan. And wow, Jekyll and Hyde pops out and you want to love and you want to forgive and you want to make it better. And it's all your fault because no matter what you do, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Even if it's out of his mouth or in your own head. That cycles, and that's part of the reason why it's difficult to pop out of these relationships. They're easy to get in because it's all woo and and smushy and lovey, and you think the jealousy is just this cute little thing until it turns into a big thing. I think it's really hard for children because that is like the strength of who they think they are as their parents. And when one is not a healthy person, they take it out on themselves in so many different ways.
It creates like a hostile environment. Like it was like coming into a house quiet, like you felt like the negativity. And it's because I created that. I created that space where they couldn't trust me. Mom is angry, mom is upset, mom is this, mom is that. And I didn't want to live my life like that. Who wants to live in your children not trusting you because they know you're hurt? They know you're angry. They didn't understand why. And that's so funny. Yesterday, they read my book, right? My son tells me, Mom, I never read a book in my life that I actually took the time to read it. But I also had to explain to them certain things that they didn't understand. Because they knew I was in a domestic violence relationship. They just didn't know what took place in the relationship.
Right.
So one of them was like really quiet. I'm like, it's okay. You can ask questions. Just ask me, I'll be honest. Because they're teenagers now. So I want to be honest with them. So, I'm glad that my son said, wow, I never read a book and actually read the book. So he found it really interesting. He was like, Mom, I just wanted to keep reading and kind of, get to know me on a different level.
Well, and that's the key because we do a really good job at hiding things, and we do a really good job with stuffing our grief because at the end of the day, we're still moms and we have a job to do. We might not do it well or eloquently, but we try to box stuff out. And whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, that's just a human response to trauma, right? Yeah. And I love the fact that your kids are participating in learning those deep parts that you couldn't get out because you didn't even understand them yourself, to be honest.
I mean, no one knew what I was going through. I was so private, It creates like an embarrassment a little bit. Big. You didn't want anybody to know, or you knew that either your family might not support you, right? Especially when you don't have like that great relationship with your parents. It kind of makes it worse. So, at that time, me and my mother didn't have the best relationship. So I couldn't really call her and be like, hey, Mom, I'm going through this. This is how I'm feeling. I need your help.
So talk to me about now. What's going on now? You're in Boston, which is a fun town. It's too busy for my tastes, but I do like to visit. And as I said, I'll be there in about a week. what's it like for you to kind of be in a busy metropolis on your own, rebuilding your relationship with your kids?
It's been an amazing road. I created my cosmetic line. I created my lingerie line. I created my book. I'm able to help women. I'm able to help women with fear to reconnect themselves, to love themselves. Because sometimes we lost. Once you live in a relationship, okay, what do we do now? Yes, we get
Well,
resources. What
you
do we do with
also
resources?
you also feel very ugly too, and
Yeah.
unwanted and damaged and broken and vulnerable in a way that is scary, and you don't want to really show that. um, and I love the fact that you created your own cosmetic and lingerie line. I don't know if I remember that you did that, but that's really the bomb. Good for you.
Sometimes as mom or sometimes as women, we tend to feel like we can't be sexy, we can't be extra pretty, we can't take care of ourselves. We do. It's so important to take care of yourself so you're able to take care of other people. And trust me, a little bit of lip gloss, it just makes me feel a little bit more fierce. Not that you're ugly, but it makes you prettier. It makes you feel undeniable. So, that's how I want women to feel fearless.
Sparkly. So
Yes.
are you taking that, your lingerie and your makeup line, to like battered women's shelters or groups like that, so that they can kind of reinvigorate what they may have lost in the process?
So I'm actually working in a project right now there's a shelter called Casa Mirna in Boston, which is a domestic violence shelter. So I'm kind of working with them to create something for women who, like you said, sometimes we feel ugly internally, to kind of make them feel a little bit prettier in the outside. Because when, sometimes this is okay, it tends to, heal a little bit in the inside. So that's definitely a great project. And I'm also working with 2 college students to create a website for women to find resources more than, there's safe houses, there's shelters, but medically, right? Psychiatrists, therapists, or groups, right? Sometimes we need extra help other than a psychiatrist or a therapist. So it's amazing to help
I
other
love it.
women.
When you launch that, let me know and I'll throw you back on the show, because I think that people placate because they don't know how to really deal with. Nobody's actually dug into the roots openly, publicly, and said, hey, you know what? We don't need talk therapy. We don't need to rehash what happened. What we need to do is build on what the future is going to be. And let's learn about, life skills, and let's learn how to interview again, and build a resume and do all the proactive things that need to be done after such a traumatic experience, because you really do lose every aspect of who you are. And for most of us, speaking for myself, for most of us, you lose all connections with friends and family because you realize that there wasn't a connection there.
Well, they don't understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you can't connect with somebody what you're going through, it's like, okay, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do. So it's really kind of hard. Like right now, I'm in a few domestic violence group on Facebook, and we had a lady yesterday who said her mother laughed at her when she tried to reach out for help, and she said she felt so suicidal because the person that she thought she trusted laughed and said, "Oh, you're being a crybaby." And it happened to me because his mother said to me, "Just deal with it. He's the man. You gotta respect the man. Just keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything." And I was like, wow, don't say anything. Shut your, she was like, just keep your mouth shut. And I'm like, wow, like until this day, it kind of replays in my mouth, in my head. And she's telling me not to say anything, to keep my mouth shut, to kind of respect him because he's the man of the house. And I'm like,
That's
it's
that's
crazy.
just that's like what that whole Bates Motel movie was made out of, the kind of father or daughter, relationship. Oh my God, that's creepy as hell.
Yeah, and she has a daughter, she has a daughter of her own. And I'm like, how will you like it? If someone else says your daughter, just deal with it. Be quiet, don't say anything, respect. I just still don't understand.
Well, if he was abusive to you, he was probably abusive to his sister. So the mom obviously.
never said anything. She will, her pride is so big that this is her son, only her baby. She will never say anything. She will never admit it. Absolutely not.
So my darling Mari, we are running out of time, but I want people to find out more information about you, especially those of you who are recovering from domestic violence, domestic abuse. And there's many flavors of that. It could be financial, emotional, physical, mental, or all of the above, like some of us. How do we reach out to you and check you out?
So my website, marciellyramos.com. You can actually get resources there too that you can print out if you need. Or you can find me on Instagram, Marcielly_Ramos in IG. Or you can always email me, info@mariramos@gmail.com.
All those links will be down below because Marciello is not easy to spell, but it'll be down below. So click on those links. Love of my life, tell me 3 things that you would suggest for any woman who's terrified about their partnership and they want to get out, but they're terrified to get out. What things would you do?
Create a safe environment, create a safe plan. But make sure when you do create a safe plan, it's very safe. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Create a safe plan. Take your credit card, your information. Make sure that if you are going to tell somebody, please make sure that person is trustworthy. Take care of your mental health and take care of yourself.
Amen. And the safe plan is huge. I had to create one in seven different states just in case I came up missing because he decided that he was going to start cleaning his gun and put me in a body bag, which I had on recording, but the judge wouldn't listen to it because in the state of New Hampshire, they don't listen to recordings.
Yes, they're trying to change that because my brother lives in Lebanon, New Hampshire. So I really hope that they do find a way more than a piece of paper.
Yeah, I don't even know at this point what would work. That's like, my daughter wants me to be more compassionate with pedophiles. And personally, when it comes to pedophiles, I'm a medieval person. I literally think that they should be hung in the middle of the center. And it's really hard.
And my daughter was sexually abused for my second abusive relationship. And I do not feel any type. And I only God do what he do. But please don't tell me to feel bad for those people. They didn't feel bad for my daughter. Okay?
Right. And so I struggle with that because my spirituality wants me to be a higher person. And that's my struggle. So how do you, if you can't fix that, how can you fix an abuser? Because ultimately it's the same demon, right? It's the same creature.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how they would change that.
I think that the first thing we need to stop sweeping things under the rug, right? And for example, I couldn't say certain things in my book trying to protect family members, right? Because they had a heart attack when I started to write my book. Oh my God, you putting family business out there? I don't want my daughter to feel like that. I want her to speak. Mm-hmm. I want my kids to speak freely, even if I hurt your feelings, even if I did something and you thought it wasn't right. I want you to speak to find that healing and that freedom.
Amen.
And apologize to your children. It's very important that as a mother, we also need to apologize for hurting our children. It makes a difference. It actually makes a difference.
Well, and you're recouping your relationship too. It's so hard. And we could go on for days about this because it's such a tricky situation. Healing yourself, getting yourself in a safe place, feeling like you can go to the grocery store. That was the one that was so hard for me because we couldn't even move 45 minutes away without, it was battle. The judge didn't even allow that. And yet he would stalk me. He'd literally chase me down the street in the car and he would laugh about it because he knew what he was doing and there was nothing I could do about it.
And that's anyway. When you're not protected by law, when women do look for help and they're not protected. So what do we do now? So, we create a way where even though we got resources, we know what to do with the resources without being scared.
Exactly. And that I think is the best power that we can have cohesively and collaboratively. And I would love to work on a project like that,
Yeah, we can find ways. There's ways, we just got to put them together.
Amen. You are beautiful, my friend. I'm so glad you survived. I'm glad your kids are doing well and, good for you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Bye, sweetheart.
Bye-bye.
You're watching Living and Thriving with Rustie. I'm Rustie, and I get to do this. This is the coolest thing on the planet. Why? Because I get to share with you amazing people from all over the world that do amazing things. And they're brave enough to tell you their personal story. And good for her for saying, apologize to your kids because you were part of the abuse too. And I don't think you should take it as you were an abuser, but your grief and your suffering and your anger and your fear, kids feel it. They feel it hard because you're mommy, your safety net. So just chew on that for a little while. And if you happen to have an inkling to try on some makeup or some lingerie, or you're a group of women who are healing and recovering from domestic violence, definitely reach out. Her link's below, and have a little party and do something to enjoy the new version of you, the healthier and safer version of you. Know that you're beautiful, know that you're loved. Do something kind, because you never know, with one smile, one hello, one you look beautiful today, one cup of coffee, any of that amount of kindness, how you can actually change somebody's life. And that's what we should be doing, right? Anyway, take care. Bye-bye.